Enshrouded is here, it is live, it is day one, and we can all finally get in here and experience the early access initial phases of a very hyped up new survival game called Enshrouded. And this video is going to be my first day one initial beginner first impressions type of thoughts as I've just kind of been playing around and trying to test some of the different mechanics and navigate around the map and do kind of the early stages of the game in terms of what I think of it. And firstly, all in all, kind of running around and playing the game and interacting with the environment and chopping down trees and fighting enemies, it all feels pretty good for an early access game. There are some issues, like sometimes your feet are clipping through floors weird, or when you're on stairs and you see an enemy, their animations are kind of glitched out a little bit. I've seen them be like stuck underneath the stairs instead of standing on them, and some minor things like that. But I haven't had like any crazy hard stop, like game crashes or anything too awful. It's mostly like an 8 or 9 out of 10 in terms of how smooth it's performing here, especially for an early access game. And then the graphics of how the game looks, it seems to be a little bit of a step up from Valheim, a little bit more of a stylized version of something that's a little bit more rugged like Valheim. I think it walks the line of having good stylized graphics but not being like too corny or cartoony. So I really do generally like the graphic style and the look of the game. I also played it co-op with a friend of mine, and it seemed pretty seamless. We were able to both progress the same quest line together, which I guess could be a double-edged sword depending on if you're able to always play together and stuff like that. Somebody might get way ahead while you're not there, and it might throw off kind of your quest line you were wanting to do. But if you're looking to like sit down and play the game co-op and only play with each other, the whole moving through the storyline and doing the quests and all that is pretty seamless, and it feels pretty good. I also really enjoy that it's a voxelized world. You can see here that my first home that I built on day one, I literally just dug into this rock here and then built my home like this without having to build some massive structure above the ground. I'm able to just kind of dig into a cave and make my own dwelling like this very easily. So in terms of having a voxel customizable world that you can really interact with and affect all of the terrain, that is definitely super cool. I also really like how you've got different items here that have like uncommon and rare and epic rarity, and you can upgrade them to get new additional attributes added to them or increase their damage. And the whole combat system, the whole triangle where you've got like the melee sword and board, and you've got the magical weapons, and you've got the ranged archer, it all feels pretty cool, and it all seems at least viable here in the early game. Having a lot of fun kind of running around using the wand. You can target fire onto enemies and then just kind of like run circles around, dodging and shooting at them with your wand, which is super fun to use, and I'm doing really well with that early game at least. And it's also super cool that they have a skill tree right here where you can assign different point nodes. I'll do a video going over all of these and some of like the best nodes and the most optimal stuff as I can play more and test more stuff and go over learning this a little bit more in depth. But I do think this is a super cool spin on the genre. You know, something like Valheim doesn't really have anything like this. Yes, you level up your skills, you chop down trees, and you're increasing your wood cutting and all that, but you don't have like a mastery tree or a passives bar or anything like this. So this is definitely fun, and I'm probably going to be building down some of these magic trees on the bottom right because I'm kind of leaning in that direction here on my first playthrough. And this does definitely add a really deep and fun mechanic to co-op play because you can do really cool things like have one of your friends go down the healer tree right here. You see healer, you gain additional healing, and you can also do things like passive healing when you're just around your allies, like right here. All players within 15 meters regenerate 1 health point per second for every point of intelligence you have. That could be insanely strong in co-op. You could be like the healer support while somebody goes a tank, their sword and board, and then somebody else is like the archer ranger. So this does bring a really fun dynamic to co-op that would be another tier of complexity on top of something like we're used to in Valheim. And all in all, I'm enjoying my experience, and it's mostly positive so far, but just to keep the video on both sides of the review in terms of some of the gripes I would have or some minor concerns that are a little bit annoying while I'm playing and stuff like that. I do think it's annoying how the cooking mechanic works in this game. I have to like sit here and hold down the left mouse button the entire time to cook one thing at a time, and then I have to release and then I have to hold down the mouse again. And to cook 10 of these, I have to sit here for like 4 minutes doing this, holding down my mouse button the whole time. I wish they would just let you like throw the mushrooms in there like you can do in Valheim. You have your campfires and you just throw your food on there and let it cook while you're doing other stuff around your home. I do hope they address that and just let us kind of throw our stuff in here to cook and then go about our business doing other stuff. So that was a little bit annoying. And then also when I'm farming, maybe there's a setting for this or something, but I just kind of noticed that when I'm like farming wood, it's super annoying because when it's dark outside or it's night or whatever, I have to chop down the tree and then I don't auto pick up this wood. Like you see, I'm just walking over this. Maybe there's a setting for this and I just sound like an idiot, but I really don't like how I have to like then go and loot everything and pick up everything around me 3 or 4 times because when it's night out, I can't really see what I'm doing. I mean, I guess I can pull out a torch or whatever, but I do like how in most survival games when you chop it down it just auto vacuums into your inventory, and I kind of wish that was the thing on here. And then another thing that was standing out to me as a minor gripe when I'm playing is as I'm running around, the world feels too empty. Like you can run around for a while and not see anything. And then especially early in the game, maybe this changes later in the game and it gets crazy. I don't know. Obviously it's day one, but like early game, it feels very barren, and you'll go on long stretches of walks running around where you won't see any animals. You won't have any enemies to fight. And I want to fight more. You know, I enjoy how in Valheim, early in the game, I can go on the outskirts of the Black Forest and I can start training up my blocking. I can start leveling up my clubs, and like right from the get-go, like as soon as you spawn in, you've got greylings on you, you've got boars, you've got necks, you've got just constant action around you where you can be in combat. And really, there's long stretches of the game where I feel like I'm running around and there's just nothing to interact with. It almost feels apocalyptic sometimes, like I'm the only person on this entire peninsula and everything else is dead and gone for a while for long stretches. So I do hope they kind of bump up the density in the early game, and like I said, maybe it's crazy in the late game, and I'll be making a video about how it's too much, you know, who knows. But anyway, as of right now, that was kind of a thought that stuck out of my head, is it seems a little bit too barren. I wish there was more density and more action and more things to fight. But I will say I do like how they have that compass up in the top middle of the screen where you can easily navigate to your waypoints and stuff like that. And then also, I noticed when I was playing co-op, I did show my friend on my top compass. So it makes it very easy to see where your friends are at any given time on the map. And then I also do really enjoy how the resting mechanic works. You can see there how it's slowly ticking up. So up in the top left of the screen, you can see I have 18 minutes of resting. It's not like Valheim where you have to sit there and wait for 30 seconds to get your resting bonus and you have no clue when it's going to happen. You'll see here when I enter any second now, there you go. It's going to start counting up as I rest, and there it scales all the way up to 19 minutes and it kind of slowly ticks up so you can see your resting bonus going from nothing to maxing out. I really like how they did the resting mechanic. So right now, in terms of my impressions walking away from day one and my initial playtime in Enshrouded, I would say it's mostly what I thought it was going to be. It's not blowing me away in either direction. It's not absolutely amazing, best game I've ever played, and it's just surprising me to the point where I'm like, oh my goodness, you got to go buy this immediately. And it's also not a huge disappointment. I'm not like, okay, this is trash, don't buy it, give it a few months, let them polish things. So it just kind of is what it is. I thought it was going to be a fun game and a good game. And as of day one in early access, that's kind of what it's looking like. It's like a loose recommend from me. And so far, my overall sentiment would be like a B- or a B. Again, not amazing, but not bad. It's just kind of in a decent place right now. And if we pull up the Steam page, we can see here that it does have about 2,300 reviews as of me recording this, and it is 82% positive. That's a pretty good sign for an early access game. It's not something crazy like 95%, but it's also not super low at like 68 or something. So again, most people seem to kind of be in my camp, I think, where they're like, okay, it's decent. It's not blowing me away, but it's also not a bad game. It's coming in at 82%, which is pretty solid. And then over there on the top right, we'll go ahead and pull up the player data, and you can see that the all-time peak is 70,000 players, kind of right here at launch when it hit that number. That's actually a little bit lower than I thought it would hit, but it is in the middle of the work week when it released. It's not like a Friday night or something. So I would say the all-time peak of this game is probably going to be this weekend. We might set a new high, and let's see what it hits. I know I did a previous video here on the channel, and I was saying it's probably going to be somewhere between like 200 and 400,000 in terms of an all-time peak. This is a little bit lower than I thought it would be. I thought we would see a number up in the 100s, so that's a little bit of a negative sign. I thought it would be a little bit bigger than that here on a day one, but it's definitely not a dead game, and it's not underperforming by any means. I just thought it was going to be a little bit bigger than this, but a lot of people have said that with Pal World going absolutely batshit crazy with the launch this week, that it is going to be stealing a lot of players out there that would have been trying something like Enshrouded, because Pal World is so new. That easily could have cost 100,000 players here on this number, and we could have seen it up around 175 or 200 if Pal World hadn't come out for sure. But then also, one thing I did want to talk about is hosting a server or like renting a server from a website and all of that. In terms of my experience, it's been complete and utter garbage. I haven't been able to get anything to work. I haven't been able to pay for a server and then like join it and let my friends join. I can only have success playing like a private game that I host and then inviting my friends manually through Steam and stuff like that. So let me know if it's different for you. But in terms of me right now, I am not able to get any sort of dedicated servers working. I've paid for them. They got their money. I've sent out support tickets. They're saying it's a problem for everybody. And you would think at this point we would be able to launch a game with the ability to have a dedicated server that you can pay for so multiple friends can join without you having to host the game for them. You would think we'd be at that point, but we are not. At least as of my experience here on day one, I'm not able to get that to work. So that is definitely a huge ding. But yeah, that's going to be my thoughts here on day one. Overall, generally positive, and so far so good. It's looking like I'm going to have a fun time playing through Enshrouded and then covering the game for you here on the channel and diving into some of those mechanics and getting a bunch of informative content out there about the game as I can dive in and learn more. So remember to subscribe on your way out if you enjoy survival content like you see right here with Enshrouded, and I appreciate you. I'll see you soon in the next video. Peace.